I'm CK. Today I dug into my bag of Mitch Electronics kits and I pulled out the transistor flasher, a little simple circuit to show how to use the transistor circuit to flash some LEDs. And as you can see, it's kind of small, so I was wondering if I should just do that. But then again, I looked a little further and I've got transistor flasher SMD. So we've got a through-hole version and a SMD surface mount version. So I'll do both of them in the same video. That makes the video long enough to make it worth your time to look at. And if you're just interested in the through-hole, you can just look at that. If you're just interested in the SMD, you can look at that. And we'll look at the web page. I'm sure it's as good as all the Mitch Electronics web pages I've seen are. We'll put both of them together, give them a run, see what you learn, and I hope you enjoy the video. Here are two bags, transistor flasher SMD, transistor flasher standard. They both have a NPN transistor, two caps, resistor, LED, connector, and a PCB. Another transistor, two caps, resistors, LEDs, and a connector and PCB. And there's the QR code for the web page where it's going to be, where you'll find the schematic, a good description, and usually a simulator of what's actually going on. I haven't looked at this page yet. We'll get to that in a little bit, but that's what I anticipate because that's what I've seen in their stuff before. So let's look at the surface mount stuff first. And we've got things, many things. We've got the circuit board itself. It's a fine little circuit board. Two caps, four resistors, two transistors, which will alternate flashing these two LEDs, and that's where the power comes in. All through-hole plated, good quality boards. He uses good quality boards. And you can follow the traces pretty well if you want to model the electron and flow yourself. And a couple of LEDs, 100 microfarad 16 volt caps, 4 resistors, and our 2 transistors, and a 9 volt battery snap cap. So that's the through-hole version. The SMD version looks like this. Another snap cap for battery. The circuit board, which is significantly smaller, as you can see. Nice. I don't know, the surface mount pads are not smooth. They're a little, for lack of a better term, they're a little crinkly. And the edges are a little rough. We didn't file them off before we shipped them out. But I'm sure it'll be fine. Resistor, diode, resistor, cap, the 2 transistors and 2 more resistors up there. So here we have our resistors, and I think he gave us more than we need. Great, we can throw it in our spares bag and have spares. There's the other transistor value. How many does it says? It just says 1 times 680 ohm resistor strip, 1 times 5.6K resistor strip. So we're only going to be using 2 of these, of each, so that leaves us with 2, 4, 6, 8 spares, which we can put in our parts bin. And we've got 2 surface mount caps, surface mount electrolytic caps, I should say. The standard caps look more like resistors. Here we've got the LEDs, and again, we're only going to need 2, so we've got 3 extra that we'll put in our parts bin. And here we have the transistors, and we only got 2 of those, and that's all we need. So the question is, which one do we want to do first? I will find out here just in a second. I will bring up my app from random.org and we'll flip a coin. Heads we do surface mount first, tails we do through hole first. And it comes up, heads we're going to do the surface mount first. This app comes from random.org, which is, if you're a software engineer or designer or something like that, they are a great resource for random numbers, including being able to download batches of them, and they're really as truly randomized as at all possible. So go type in random.org sometime if you're interested in random numbers. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. Tonight we're just going to be soldering some stuff together. So I'll get the soldering iron heated up. We'll do the SMD one first. And if you're not interested in that, you can look at a chapter marker in the description or along the timeline and jump right to the through-hole version. So since we're going to be doing surface mount, let me zoom the camera in and move the solder pad up. And what you'll need, what I recommend at least, is, if you haven't done surface mount by hand before, you'll need a soldering iron with the smallest tip you can manage. You'll need some flux. This is Chip Quick. Costs like $30 for 50 grams of this, maybe a little more. But I've had this for about 3 years and done a number of surface mount kits, and as you can see, I haven't used very much at all. If you're a casual surface mount solderer, this will probably last you forever. And then a good pair of tweezers to hold the components. And I have a video on my channel about tweezers, so give that a try. Oh gosh, I didn't even do this. Hold on, let me back out again, because I completely forgot to bring up their web page, because again, I really like their web page generally. Let's see what we got. Come on, you can do it. 404. That's no good. Let me see, all kits. I'm looking for what we're looking for here. Show 36. Transistor flasher. Again, this is only 2 pounds or 3 pounds. So, additional information, T-flasher instructions page. Oh, it's not there, huh? Let's see if we can get the construction manual. No. Huh. Yeah, the only thing I don't know, the only reason why I care about the instruction page is I need to know what values go where, but if I look at this picture, gosh darn it, Oh, I can figure it out from there. So let me compare. I have to get the other board out so I can compare. So it looks like R4 and R1 are the 680 ohm, and the R2 and R3 are the 5.6K, so I'm going to go with that on this board too, because I can't see a reason why they would have changed that. Let me keep this here so I don't confuse myself, but surprisingly enough, it doesn't have the web page. I'll send him a note. He may not even know that something went wacky with his web page. So I'm going to start with the 5.6ers. And I've got a little parts bin for these guys. Let me peel the plastic off here. This is always a bit of a pain simply because it's not designed for you and me to get these out. It's designed for a manufacturing machine to get these out. So we have to peel them off. And it's not always the easiest thing in the world to do, as you can see as I fumble here. And we'll just get two of them out, of course. Here we go, little guys in the bin. And I do want to zoom in again so you can see them if you can. They're right there. They're very tiny. They're white on one side and black with the, with the numeric value printed on them. On the other side, that's 562. Now, it doesn't matter which side goes up when you're assembling them. So don't worry about that. It's just, you know, neater, for lack of a better term. Oh, the other thing you need is you need some good thin solder. I use this MG Chemical .025 inch for surface mount. Now again, I want to just remind myself, because I'm just looking again. God, this is such a pain. So that's R2 and R3. So here's R2, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little dab of, see if you can see that. Yes, you can. I will probably get my head in the shot at least once because it's so small. Put a little dab of solder on one of the solder pads. Pick my resistor up by my tweezers. Then reheat that solder pad. Get the resistor onto it, and as you can see, it's in place. We do R3 also so I don't confuse myself, because that's a very common problem with me. And as you can see, oh, actually, we're not even going to use the flux today. I usually use that with if there's an integrated circuit. So now both resistors are in place, held securely, and what I'm going to do is solder the other sides. Really simply, just like that. And as you can see, in some ways, a surface mount resistor can be a little quicker because you don't have to bend leads, you don't have to put it through a hole and then bend the leads behind the board, and you also don't need to trim wires. So again, in some ways, surface mount is easier than through hole once you get used to it, and it's not hard. It just takes a little patience. Now put the other two resistors on. Again, heat that solder ball up, make sure the resistor's flat. Heat that solder ball up again, let it cool. I'm beating my parts tray on the table to get the component to flip over. Because again, it doesn't matter, but it just kind of looks a little bit neater if the values are up. There's all the resistors on. Next, we're going to take I'm not going to put the diodes on yet. I'm going to take the electrolytic caps out. These can be a little funkier simply because the leads do not stick out from the side all that much. Oh, also these are, as most electrolytic caps are, polarized, and there's a plus sign on the circuit board to show you which side the positive side goes on. And the positive side is not indicated with a plus sign on here, but it's got a black band showing you where the negative side is. So I'm not even going to, actually I'll use my tweezers just because I'm such a shaky Jake. And same thing, heat this up, push it on. It's a little more difficult because the leads can be a little short and the pads are very big, so I want to make sure it slides over so I get the other side exposed, which I haven't gotten to yet. There we go. That's one side. I'm going to do both sides on this one right now. Actually, I'm going to heat it up again and press the cap down because it was up a little bit from its pad, and you can barely see the little nub of the contact for that electrolytic. But just shove some solder in there, it'll be fine. Now we'll do the other electrolytic. Slide over again. Make sure you don't heat the resistor you've already put on too much. And that will be good. That one is up a little bit too, so give it a little press with my finger and press the, there we go. Now we're good. Now we'll do the transistors. They go on these little 3-prong or 3-position solder locations. And I personally like to put the gate, I do the gate or the base first. There's no right or wrong way to do that, or to pick. Come on, solder, get on. There we go. around. I always have to switch it around because I think about it backwards first all the time. Pick up the transistor. Reheat that solder pad. Make sure the leads are over the other solder pads and they're not quite up. Don't escape the area, little transistor. You're going to have a wonderful life flashing. Here we go. Now the leads for the other two connections for the emitter and the collector or source and drain. That's good. Now we'll do the other pad here. I don't know why I'm biffing on these. Here we go. There's my tweezers, and this one flipped over again. I bang the parts tray against my workbench top because I found if I try and flip them over with my tweezers, I'm fighting it and fighting it and fighting it, but if you bang it against your desktop, it hops up a little bit, and you have a pretty good chance that it'll land the way you want. There we go, that one's on. That one's not on well. Fluxes. Here we go. Now we got a good connection. Now we've got our LEDs, and I'm looking to see how, he doesn't have a clear indication of which is the positive side and which is the negative side. I really don't know. So I'm going to guess on this, and I have a 50% chance I'll be right. I'm getting two of them out of the plastic. Okay, I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to see, just because I didn't look thoroughly, I'm going to see if he has SMD flasher kit here. Oh yeah, there he does. I'm sorry. So let's see what that says. See if that one has an actual build page. It's not doing anything. The link's not doing anything. Oh, there we go. Nope. I'm seeing if he gives me any hint as to how he marks positive on these. See, he doesn't. So, let's see if I can tell from the picture, but I really can't because the indicator on a diode is on the back. Gosh darn it. I can't really tell, so I'm going to wing it here and put the cathode side down, theoretically down. I'm sorry, let me be a little clearer here in just a second after I mark these two pads. And again, I have a 50-50 chance of getting this right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pause the cameras just for a minute. I'm going to look at one of his other SMD kits and see if I can see what's going on. Okay, it's not 100% clear, but I believe I've got it right. I believe the cathode side will be here and here. And how you can see that, and this is going to be tough to see, on the LED there's a green mark. Let me get down to where we are. A green mark on one leg. That's the cathode side. So we will put that on there just like we put resistors on, and the same technique works for regular ceramic type capacitors too. So just heat the pad up again and slide it forward a little bit, slide it in there a little bit. There, we're good. Now we'll get some solder and do the other end. You notice that diode is a little bit crooked. Doesn't matter. Actually, it is a little high though, so I am going to drop it down a little bit. There we go. There we go. Just take your time. If somebody as impatient as I am can do this, I'm sure you can do it. Now we'll put the battery snap cap on this one. Red wire into the hole with the positive plus symbol. And also it's a square solder pad. Sorry, I'm probably not getting much of a shot on that. Here we go, the two wires are right there. Okay, let me go over and get my rechargeable 9-volt battery. I'm going to turn this light off. I only use rechargeable batteries in my shop because I would go through too many batteries if I didn't. Okay, now we've got battery on. And you can see it's flashing back and forth. Again, he usually has a good schematic to show, but you can look at you can look at the through-hole version, and it's the same schematic, so there's no problem there. So it works, and you saw some surface mount soldering, and see that it's not that big a deal at all to do. So what I will do now is take a little break and then put the through-hole version together. And for that one, the URL or QR code on the bag works just fine. So it's got a good schematic and then a simulator, so you can learn a lot about how this all works. And it's got, of course, a component list, so we don't have to guess as to where the resistors go. Maybe the other one is back up now too. I'll check that after I get this thing womped together. I think we will start on this one with the resistors, as is our habit with electronics is to put the resistors or flattest things down on the board first. And the 680 ohm resistors go in. And again, the simulator, by the way, the little simulator on the Mitch Electronics webpage works really well, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about how a simple two-transistor oscillator circuit works. Again, there's no integrated circuit in there, there's no timing crystal, it's just capacitors, resistors, and transistors interacting. And there's a good bit to learn there. And we'll just be flinging these resistors right on, because there aren't enough of them to have resistor time, even though I may put the resistor time graphic over this, even though it's not sped up and quiet. Just because we can't miss resistor time on my channel, can we? Where is some solder? Here's some solder. Here's some other solder. Oops, I moved out of the camera frame. I'm zoomed in a little bit more than usual, so I'm not necessarily quite used to it. And again, these boards take solder very well. They're high quality boards. So you won't have any Now I think I'm going to put the transistors on next, and again they come in paper tape, and I don't try and pull them out of the paper tape, I just cut them free, because you'll do less damage if you try and fight them out. Then you'll find yourself, and both of these are NPN transistors, you'll just find yourself twisting leads or something like that. Flat spot to the flat spot printed on the circuit board. Middle leg goes backwards. Some board designers use software that makes them go forward. This one goes backwards. I'm going to go ahead and womp through all this stuff. Now, same thing with the capacitors. Now, you just have to be a little more careful here, because typically you look at the long lead to identify which leg of the capacitor is the positive terminal, and when you clip them out like this, you suddenly don't have a long lead, but what you have is you have the shaded area, which is the negative side, and you match that with the shaded area on the circuit board, or the opposite side from where the plus sign is. Always remember, most electronic kits are not testing your knowledge. They want you to be successful. Same thing with the LEDs, and on the LED you just have to rely on being able to tell which side has the flat spot, which is the cathode or negative side. And sometimes it's hard to see. One thing that you can theoretically do, let me see if I can show you this, is you can kind of roll the LED and it'll stop on the flat side, which is just a handy little way of telling if you can't pick it up for yourself, which I sometimes can't. And my hat just fell off again because I looked up at the camera. I don't know why my hat keeps falling off when I look up at the camera. We'll roll that again. There, up, there we go, flat spot. Solder all these fellas together. And now the battery snap cap. And we've got, these are not marked plus or minus, marked ground where the black wire will be, and VDD, or where the positive power will be coming in. And I'm going to try and just stick them, golly, going to try and just stick them through the holes, fold them over, and set them on the solder pad so I don't have to get any more complicated than that. Yeah, that'll work just fine. And there's that. Let me turn the little overhead light here off. Now we'll take my rechargeable 9-volt battery and connect it up. And there we go. It's flashing. The resistors and capacitors are charging and discharging to trigger each LED in turn to flash one side or the other. Again, the schematic and simulator on Mitch Electronics' website will show you this very well. So that's another Mitch Electronics build. Going to the web page and building the kit will teach you a lot about these these three passive type components that come in handy whenever you're thinking about transistor circuits, including and up to really complicated ICs, because an integrated circuit, a computer microprocessor is all just transistors. So as you learn how they work simply, you can have a little better grasp of how they work in the big term. And I hope you enjoyed the video.